I've been cutting it a little bit fine today. Everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Sprue review video. And yes, we have an entire model range basically to look at. Yes, today we are going to be Sprue reviewing the new Skaven stuff. And there's a lot of it. Yes, I have a list here of all the things that Games Workshop has sent me because the boxes have been scattered to the wind. They're in this room, I just can't find them all. So we have been sent the Acolyte Globadiers, the Arch-Warlock, the Brood Terror, the Doom Flayers, Krittok Foulblade, Master Moulder, Stormvermin, Vizzik Skour, Prophet of the Great Horned Rat, Warlock Galvaneer, the Warp Grinder, and the Warpspark Weapon Battery. Phew. Yes, Games Workshop have been very kind and sent me all 11 of the new Skaven kits. These are the supplemental kits to Skaven Tides. Wonderful release for the Skaven, and my goodness me, there is so much here. It is a little bit uncomfortably awesome. So we're going to jump in very, very quickly because there is so much to get through and I don't want this video to be 4 years long. But before we do, please do leave a like. Please do comment below which one you're the most excited for. Is it Vizzik? It's probably Vizzik. He's enormous, by the way. I've literally just finished him. There he is. Look at how big that guy is. It's enormous! And once you've liked and commented below, please, please could you subscribe to the channel. It would make me very happy. And it's a free way to support the channel. So, you know, win-win. It's your good deed for the day. So with that all in mind, it's time to jump in to the Skaven Sprue review. There's so many Sprues. And they're all awesome. Alright then, let's kick things off nice and easy with a clan pack. Let's go for the Skaven Master Moulder first. Keep things nice and simple. So, this just comes in this little plastic doodad, as you are all familiar with them. Little tip for you, if you've never opened one of these before, or you've opened a bunch of them and it was always a bit of a struggle, you'll see here, right there, there's a little tab, like that. It's a little tab for us to just open the packet like that, rather than having to use scissors or anything to gouge into it. We can just open it up nice and simply that way, and just slide out a piece of paper, the sprue, and the base. There we go, and that goes in the recycling like that. Right, so Master Moulder, here it is. Comes in this 2 little pages, and nope, not on the back, so 1 and 2 pages, so no options here for the Master Moulder, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 components plus a 32mm base. Nice and simple. That's what you like to see. Just love a very, very simple, quick and easy model to build. So based on that, we'll pop that to one side just for the moment, and we'll have a quick look at that sprue, shall we? So here it is, and well, first of all, let's check out from bottom right to top left. So we have the kind of chest piece here where we're connected around the outside. So this is on a reasonable flat piece. Yes, it is. It is right next to a bit of a kind of like a syringe detail just here, so you want to be careful when you're clipping it. But on the other side, we are just on the metal up here, which is dropping it really good, like that. And then here we have it on the outside of the piece of cloth. We then have the kind of molded rat, where we have a connection right in amongst the fur, just there. And then we have one on the end of the barrel, and we have one on the butt of the pistol. Well, I guess that is that the butt, or is that the grip? I guess it's the pistol grip. Then we have the main body of the Master Moulder, where we have a connection point on the tail, which for Skaven we really don't like to see that, because these are lovely round segments of the tail, and when it's like that, it's very easy to smooth one off. in a way that you don't want to. It just kind of doesn't look as pleasing. So that's a bit of a criticism here for this one. We don't have a connection point right here. This is on a piece of muscle by the looks of things. So again, another smooth rounded area we want to be careful of. And then we have it here on the knee of the actual cloth as well, which again can't be avoided on things like this most of the time. We do seem to only have the one by the looks of things, which is okay. We can almost forgive it for that. The main head is in one piece. Yep. And it's connected on the underside of the neck, which is great. It's not up here on the top, which is where you'd normally expect to see it in a bad way. It's just on the underside of the neck just there, which is really, really good. We like that. We like that a lot. The kind of grabber weapon type thing, with connection point on the blade here, but not the cutting edge. Blade here, but not the cutting edge. And on the underside of the stuff. And these three are all fine, but then we have one right there on the thumb, and that's in a quite congested area, so just want to be careful around there clipping that one out. Then we have this component just here, the other half of the body basically. Connection point on the other side of the foot, which is great. Then we have one there on the muscle, and another one there on the muscle. And this one feels like it slots in around with this one, so we're just going to want to be careful here and here to make sure they line up. It might be one of those things where we dry fit it and then smooth it at the same time. Otherwise, 7 components to make the master molder. I like it. I like it a lot. No tactical rocks in sight either, so that was nice and simple, relatively painless. So let's get on with it, shall we? Let's see how long it takes to build the Skaven master molder. So that's the master molder all done. Nice and quick. About 12 minutes. Yeah, something like that. So we're going to do another quick one. We're going to do the Warlock Galvaneer. Again, another clan pack. So once again, just going to pop out the tab. Okay. Pop my finger right in. Pull. There we go. Put out the paper. Put out the sprue. And the base. And recycle. There we go. So, Warlock Galvaneer. Here it is. I think it's got one of the coolest weapons. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So, it's over 1, 2, and 3 on the back. We do actually have an extra component there on the back, which is cool. It's the tactical rock. There is a tactical rock. So, again, no different options. So it is what it is. So all your Warlock Galvaneers will look exactly the same if you're going to have multiple of them. But there you go. And yeah, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 components. Yeah, it goes up to 10 just there. Again, I don't understand why they don't just do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on one of these. Instead we go 1, 2, then 4, then 5 and 7, then 8 and 9, and then 6 and 10. And then finishing off with 3. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. Comes on a 32mm base, as most of these Skaven characters tend to do. And we will now, very quickly, just fold that over so that we can pop the instructions to one side. There we go. And we're going to have a quick look at the sprue. Here it is. So, again, we'll go from bottom right to top left-ish. So, we have the weapon here where we have a connection point here on a muscle. That one's just about okay. It's pretty close to the fur, but we want to be careful around that one, just because, again, congested clip point. And then here we have it on the actual kind of smooth, flat part behind this kind of arm of the weapon. So this one's not too bad. That's actually okay. We quite like that. Same for the other part of the weapon. We have connection points on the back here and here. Could just as easily have been in the warp stone here and here, but it's not. It's on the back. That's good to see. We have quite a thick connection point there on component 9, so that's going to be one to watch out for. Quite tricky to get that nice and smooth, so just be careful around there and take your time with it rather than try and do it all too quickly. But it is on a smooth detail, same as it's on a smooth detail here and here. They are rounded details, so we will want to move with the curvature of the component over here on component 9. But again, it could be worse. It could be connected on these pipes, which it isn't, which is great. This one is connected on a pipe, but that's quite chunky. That's not going to go and give you too much grief. But we do have a connection point again on the rounded drum part just here. So again, just move very carefully with the curvature of the component. This one we do actually have quite a congested clip point here on this elbow, so similar to over here, but this one's even more so because we've got a bit of fur just there, and then we've got the end of the elbow just there. So we want to watch out for that. And over here we have it on this kind of smooth part, but again quite congested to get our clippers right in there. And then we have it here on the drum as well. So again, another smoothed area that needs to be gone with the curvature of the component rather than going straight across. And that echoes for over here on component 7 on both of the components just there and there. We do have the dagger here, which is not on a cutting edge of the blade, which is great. It's connected nicely to the sprue, just the one connection point. And then we have the actual Warlock itself, where we have a connection point on the underside of a foot, on a knee, right, almost at the brink of a kind of recess in the clothes, which isn't great. And we do have a connection point on a piece of armor up here, which is okay. The head looks to be in one piece. Yes, that's fantastic. We love that. This one is then again connected at another knee in amongst the cloth and on the armor. We have the rock here, but the rock is as the rock does. It's usually absolutely fine. It's actually a pretty simple sprue, really. You just got to kind of move with the pieces. Most of it's connected in the same way around on these drum parts. So whilst that is a little frustrating, at least it's consistent across it and can kind of lead to a better practice as you're going through the models. So it's not actually that bad. There's a lot to talk about, but I quite like it. I think it's a pretty neat little sprue. So let's see how long it takes to build such a neat little sprue. With our Galvaneer built, in the spirit of building more Skaven characters, let's build the Arch-Warlock. So, just get this one opened up. There we go. This one doesn't come in a clam pack. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a reason why. Components. Optional war gear, maybe? Size of sprue? Yep. There you go. That is everything we need from the box. Okay, so we got a, I'm guessing, 32mm base. We have an actual instruction booklet here, and you can see the kind of new profiles that are going to be on the instructions there. It's not too dissimilar to what we've had in the past for the most recent kind of plastic kits and stuff. And there it is. We have 1 and a 2 and a 3 pages of instructions. Now, as far as I can tell, our Arch-Warlock does not actually have any alternate build, so it is just the size of sprue. That must be it. That has to be it. Okay, so this is 19, 18, just looking for the highest number. 19 components by the looks of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, 19 components. And I don't know if you noticed that, but that was easy to count because that was all in order. So we are actually going to go component by component, number by number. That's great. I like that. That's a really nice little touch for building this particular model. Anyway, let's pop it to one side. So in order to build our Arch-Warlock, we are going to require this one sprue and our 32mm round base. So here it is. Here's the sprue. So because it's a slightly chunkier sprue than the other two, we'll just start kind of down here. So we have our connection points on the actual kind of the non-cutting edge of the blade here of that claw hand. That's nice to see. But then we have one right there in amongst the fur of all places. No. Marked down for that. We have a connection point on the outside of this piece of armor here and on the connecting point at the top there. We have one here again on the back part of the claw, so not on the cutting edge, which is great. And then we have it on the kind of the ball mechanism, the kind of part of the joint of the claw. So again, just as we've mentioned already, just move with the curvature of the piece just there. We have a piece of the base here where we've connected all the way around the outside. In here in the rocks it's absolutely fine to be a little bit rougher, but we do have quite a thick mould line actually there on the wheel part. So just watch out for that. And the connection points 1, 2 and 3 in amongst it. It's not too congested around these details as you would normally expect to see. So that's not too bad, but that mould line is quite chunky, so just watch out for that. We have the kind of glaive speary type mechanism down here where we have a connection point on the cable just there. We have it here on the armor just in the curve of it of the bracer, so just watch out for that. You don't want to accidentally clip off that corner just there. And again, just kind of move this way. It's congested though because we have the kind of the frame of the weapon just there, I guess it's the haft of that spear just there, so it's easy to kind of apply too much pressure here and cut straight into that, so just watch out for that. We have a connection point on the back part of the blade, not on the cutting edge, which is great, and we have a connection point there on that drum piece just there again. Drum piece here, slightly spindly cable there, but that's just about okay. We have another connection point on a drum bit there and on there, not on this one though, interestingly enough. So that's fun. See, it is possible. This is on the two flat connectors just there and there. We have the other half of the base where it's connected at kind of the inner bits where it will glue into this piece, but that's okay. And then we have one on the outside on the actual rock. So again, not the end of the world. We have another piece of armor just here with a connection point on another cable and on an actual piece of armor. So that one's okay. Just watch out for these cable ones because again, it's easy to miss them. So just make sure you're kind of paying attention as you're cleaning down your pieces. Connection points on the outside parts of the armor here is great, but this one actually does encroach on the top of the armor, so watch out for that. This is outward facing detail. That's component number 9, so just watch out there to make sure you get that nice and smooth rather than just around the outside, because you don't want to miss that flash. And then we have the leg of the Skaven, and it looks like it's going to be covered up when we actually glue this in, so that's not too bad. And then we have a connection point on the peg here, which goes into the base there. We have a shoulder guard just here with a connection point on the inside where it's fine, we can't see it, but then we have a big no-no here on the Warlock's tail. We have a connection point there on that segment, so just watch out for this. This is a unique to Skaven thing, but this is always going to get a mark down on a Skaven kit when you see a connection point there like that, because again, it's just very easy to smooth it off too much and it kind of loses the definition in those segments of the tail. We have a connection point on the back of the leg. It doesn't look too bad. And then we have another one here right on the kind of outward facing area of the piece of armor that's just there. It remains to be seen whether or not that will be visible. We shall find out, but for now it's just about okay. Connection point here on solid armor, which is great. And then we have connection points over here, which just kind of, these bits are academic really, because we have it on the cloth here and here. And we have it here and here as well. Can't really avoid it, I guess. We have a connection point on a piece of armor, but again, outward facing, so just watch out for that bit there. And the same goes for this bit on the back piece, because we don't want the kind of, we want to move again with the curvature of that component. The claw up here, we are again not connected on the cutting edge of the blades, which is great, just on the outside bits, which is nice and easy to smooth down. And finally we have this piece, the other part of the torso, where we have a connection point on the muscles, just about avoiding the hair, but it is a quite congested area then. It's quite a thick connection point, so just watch out for that one. What we also have on this component is we have a bit of warpstone where we do have a connection point in the warpstone. So far we've avoided it, but right there you can see it right in amongst the warpstone. So just watch out for that, because you have lots of lovely nice ridges in the warpstone, which gives it all that kind of lovely detail for contrast painting. And you just want to be careful there, because you just don't want to kind of take any of the detail out of it by applying too much pressure with your knife. And then the last connection point over here is actually on a peg, so that's absolutely fine. So there we go. That is the Arch-Warlock Sprue. It's all right. It's not the best. It's not the worst. I find myself saying that a lot these days, but the proof is in the pudding. So let's get it built and let's see how long it takes to build this lovely boy. So with our Arch-Warlock all done, it's now time to keep going on the character front, and we're going to be working next on Krittok Foulblade. So let's get this one open, shall we? It's very exciting. I didn't think I was going to be this into Skaven. They're always such an iconic race in the worlds of Warhammer, but I've never really wanted to do a Skaven army, but I don't know, something about this new stuff, it's really compelling. It's awesome. And I really like this guy since the moment I've seen him previewed. So, let's get him open. Here we go. Whoop. Oh, we got an actual 40mm base here. The biggest Skaven of the lot. Here it is. So, Krittok Foulblade. Once again, oh no, it's not a fold out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of instructions plus our war scroll on the back, as per. We've got quite a lot of components to get through here, but again, look, 1, 2. Oh no, it's not fully in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, at least it's on the same page. 13, 14, so it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 components by the looks of things in total. God, it's quite hefty. I like this. So there's no optional builds here either, or optional kind of heads or anything. So yeah, just is as it is, as you would expect from a named character for sure. But yeah, there we go, there you have it. It is, just to confirm, a 40mm round base, as you can see right there. Lovely stuff. Right, Krittok, let's have a look at your sprue. So to build Krittok, we will require this 40mm round base, and we will require this not 40mm round sprue. So as we've done so far, we're just going to go from bottom right to top left. So firstly we have Krittok's legs, and you can already tell, like, I mean, he's massive. He's a very, very, very big rat. You wouldn't want to find that down your drain pipe. So firstly we have a connection point on the underside of the rock here, and we have it actually on the rock facing just there, but as we always kind of talk about with the bases and the kind of rocky bits, it's generally fine if you're a little bit rougher there, because it's adding texture to the stylized base. We do have connection points on the legs of Krittok, but these are actually on the just bits that are going to connect into the rest of him. So this is actually a pretty good piece right here. We have one of the, well, we have the little rat follower just here, where we have a connection point on the cloth and on the cloth just there, and then we have a connection point on the underside of the foot. So watch out for these two. Again, just want to make sure you follow it along, but it does actually connect into Krittok himself just along here on this seam, so that's actually not so bad, because it should reasonably be covered up once we come to it. We have another one of the little rats just here, where we have a connection point on the underside of the rock and the underside of the rock here, and then once again 2 on the top of the cloth, but again it connects in to Krittok, so it's actually not going to be too bad to just get that nice and smooth, and it should be reasonably well hidden. We have Krittok's face here by the looks of things, and it, judging by what I can feel with my finger, It looks to be in one piece. Yes, the entirety of the head is in one piece, which is absolutely fantastic. We love that. We have the kind of body of Krittok there, where the shoulders are intact. There's no kind of in-half shoulder plates where we're going to end up with possible kind of line going right across the middle of them. That's absolutely fantastic. We love that. We then have this lovely pistol here connected on leather and on the kind of the grip of the pistol. That's okay. We have a little bit of scenic ratting stuff going on over here, where we have a connection point on the soft flesh of the back of this front rat, and so watch out for that one. Same for this arm. We have a connection point just there on what looks to be not a, well, actually it is in half, so that one's actually okay. I stand corrected. That's pretty good. We have a banner here and a banner here. We want to be careful when we're clipping these ones out, just because of the way it's connected. Especially on this one, we have connection point here and here, here and here. So there is a potential stress point just here on this part of the component between the flag and the actual kind of back piece. You can see it on Krittok himself. So when you're just clipping it out, just get these two done first, then do this one, then that one. Don't start up here because you might put pressure on there. That's, as you can see. We have a bit of the rock here, which is absolutely fine. We can just breeze past that one. The other banner here, it's not as spindly as this one. I mean, this one isn't spindly, it's just a possible pressure point there, but we do have a connection point just there next to the connector to the body, and 3 on the banner no less. So just remember to watch out for that, because you normally expect 1 or 2, but 3 is quite a lot for one little bit of flag. We have a piece of Krittok's cloak here, but thankfully we don't have a connection point on this tail, and in fact we don't have a connection point on any of the tails, which is great. We love that. Finally, we have the back piece. I'm pretty certain that's the back piece, where we have connection points around the outside, except that one just there is encroaching, and that one is a joint, so that one's fine. This one should also be fine, because I think that's also a joint. It goes on with this piece, but that one there, we just want to watch out for that, because that will curl around. It's actually on the kind of outward facing area of the cloak, so do just watch out for component number 3. And then we have a little hand. I nearly missed that, actually, where we have a connection point right there and that bit of leather, so at least it's not on the muscle. Okay. Oh, actually, we do also have a blade. We should check for... Ooh, I think that is a cutting edge right there. I think it's a double cutting edge. It's not quite as pronounced as this one. It is more a blunter edge, but I think it is supposed to be sharp. So we might have to deduct half a point there, because it's not the full. It's not like it's connected right there in the middle of the sword, but it does look to me like that is a cutting edge. So, and we have a connection point here on the cross guard, but also on the elbow. The elbow armor of this piece just there, so we want to watch out for that. Again, just move with the curvature of the piece and you should be fine. Don't apply too much pressure and just take your time with it. Okay, let's get Krittok Foulblade built. I'm excited for this one. So that's Krittok all done. He actually was quite fiddly, especially around here on this rat, and actually gluing in these pieces of the cloak and the actual body. What I would recommend, just as a quick thing whilst I've got it in my head, is here on page 1 of the instructions. So it says to do component 3 and then component 5. Line up component 5 and glue it in on the knee and on this knee as well first. Then you can guide in component 3, because I just couldn't make it work or make sense that way. Do 5 then 3 rather than 3 then 5. I think you'll find that a lot easier as you go. Anyway, that is Krittok Foulblade done. And yes, he is massive in comparison to the other Skaven. But now we're going to do a really big one. No, it's not the big one, but we're going to do another very big one that I've been really looking forward to, which is the Brood Terror. Here it is. This one is the one that we've had previewed for the longest time. This is the one that they snuck a preview out at the same time as the Knight Azeroth. Hashtag where's my Stormcast? So there it is. Now I'm anticipating this thing to be absolutely massive. So let's have a look, shall we? Oh, it's 2 sprues and a huge base. Oh my goodness, right. Oh, it actually looks... Is that push fit? It doesn't say that it's push fit, but it looks it. Or at least based on some of these things. And it's got holes in the base, so I would imagine that it is push fit. Hey, there we go, no glue required. That's cool, I like that. So, the Brood Terror is a push fit model. So this is going to be kind of one of your next steps types things after Skaventide. That's very interesting. So, well, I'm not anticipating any options then, but who knows? Yep, no, it's all is how it is. 26 components by the looks of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 components in total, and they are all push fit. Oh, I'm very surprised, and I'm into it. I like it. I like push fit models. I know not everybody does, but I'm a big fan. One thing I will say, if you don't like push fit models, the easiest way to build these things without the push fitness is just trim off all the pegs and just glue it together, and it will go together absolutely fine. Just literally just trim all the pegs. Don't don't use glue and pegs, because glue and pegs means you'll fill up like the receiver for the big peg, and that can cause an air pocket to form, and then when you push the thing together it will push out because there's air in it, or the liquid is actually providing an extra kind of layer of matter in there, which makes it not as good a bond. So just clip off the pegs and glue it together if you don't like push fit models. I don't know why I got the instructions out. Oh yes, to check the size of the base. It is 90mm round base. There we go. So 90mm round base on the Brood Terror. So let's start with the small sprue here, shall we? So I think we can already tell based on how big that tail is, this is quite a large model. Now we have criticised the kits so far that have had connection points on tails, but this one is quite a large tail. So the segments are larger, which means it's easier to smooth it down. So it's not actually as bad as when it's on a character or on a clan rat, for example. So this is actually okay. I'm not too critical of that just there. We have some of the kind of mechanical machinery stuff where, as we've seen so far, the connection points are all on the rounded cylinder drum type areas here and here and here. So just be careful as you trim these down and give them a nice smoothing out. Just, you know, move with the curvature of the piece, as we always say. We have a piece of armor just here where the connection points are around the outside here and here. We have this large chain weapon where we actually have a connection point on not a cutting edge of the blade. It just about gets away with it, so that's good. However, this one right here, this one here is on the actual face of the axe rather than on the edge. So that is where we're actually going to knock points down. It's not an axe. Oh, we've got it there as well. Oh, boo. That's not great. I mean, it's a piece that is crossing the plane, so it's better that it's not in kind of two pieces, as warrants with it being a push fit kit. But these bits here and here are going to be a little bit trickier to smooth them down and make sure that that looks fantastic. It might not be the end of the world because it is a weapon and it doesn't mind having a little bit of extra wear and tear, but just watch out for it. Okay, so we then have a large piece of the body. My goodness me, look at how big that is. We have connection point on a long strand of hair. That's just about acceptable. And then we have it here on the horn, which is not acceptable. We don't like that. Well, that's actually the tooth. It is going to be inward facing on the... Actually, no, it's not. It is the horn. It is the horn. It's not a tooth because that's a tooth. This is not great because we want that to be nice and smooth, so it's easy to kind of gouge it. Again, just move with the curvature. Go away from the model, not towards the model. It'll make it a little bit easier. And we have another section of the body here. Another section of the head here, where we have a connection point on the front of the tooth. Oh, God, no, that's not great. We don't like that either. Again, very easy to mess that up and kind of chip too much of it out. And you'll end up, especially in a Contrast Plus version, whacking some Skeleton Horde over it, for example. That will be a brown blob right on the front of the yellowed teeth. So, as an example, don't know if I'm going to use Skeleton Horde just yet. We'll find out when I come to paint it. But we have a connection point on this piece of body and on this one, around on all the flesh and things like that, which you just kind of expect on the large models. Again, just move with the curvatures of the pieces and you should be fine. We do just have to be a little bit patient when it comes to these bits. We have a foot here, again, connection point there on the back of the ball of the foot, or is that the ankle? That would be the ankle. And actually this leg is in two pieces, so that might be one of those ones where you don't want to use the pegs, you actually just want to use glue to make sure that is nice and then there's not a big gap going down of the leg. Okay, it's not a great start on that sprue. Some good, some bad, but let's have a look at this one. So we have even more large areas. I mean, look at the torso here. Connection points on the outward facing areas of the cloth here and here. This one is on the edge, that's okay, and that one's on the edge too, but then this one is also on the actual outward facing area of the cloth, so not a great start, but we'll find out if it gets better. We have a connection point at the seam of this arm and at the seam of the neck, so that's okay because we can smooth that down nicely. And I'm guessing that's the other half of that foot that we saw over there, so again, connection point on the ankle, on the underside, and on the peg just there. We have the molded master Moulder thing, where we have a connection point not on a cutting edge of a blade, that just about gets away with it, but then we have a connection point right there on the front of that kind of claw device, that horrible eruption that you can see on the box art, so you just want to be careful on there. It's sadly got connection points in all the places we don't want, but not on cutting edges of blades, so I guess I should be happy. We also have another one of these arms here. This one's better than the other one because we don't actually have the connection point on the flat of the blade bit, so that's better. Again, another kind of machinery housing over here on drum sections. This one's a bit flat, that's okay, and this one's a sort of exhaust piston, that's okay. Again, just flat areas. You don't want it always to be on these circular drum bits. But that one is in half as well, so just, you know, I guess that's the connecting piece just there. Again, another area you might want to use glue instead of the pegs, just to make sure that you don't have a gap going across the middle of those drum sections over there. Okay, I think with all that being said, we should see how it goes together as a push fit kit. It's not great, this sprue. It's a beautiful model, and I love that it's push fit, but it does worry me. Those connection points and things like that, so we'll have to see how good the pegs are in terms of pushing it together. Well, let's see how long it takes. It should be a lot quicker than I was anticipating, given that it's push fit, but let's see. So that Brood Terror went together really easily. That is one of the best push fit kits I've ever experienced in my entire life. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's also huge. Look at it. Here is the Galvaneer. Anyway, it's now time to put this guy to one side because we're going to move on to the next kit. Now this one might also be push fit, I don't know. But we're going to check out the Doom Flayers next. Yeah, just decided that on a whim. So let's open it up. I'm going to guess that this is push fit. It feels like a candidate for push fit, but we'll see in but a moment. Oh, I'm excited. Here we go. No, I don't think it is push fit. Right, let's pop that to one side. So we should know here, because we've got variant assembly, choice of parts, build this many. It does not say we do not require glue for this. So there we go. These are not push fit to Doom Flayers. Now, we do have 2 in the box, which is cool. And there we go. Blue and green. This must be a case of you build 2 that can look exactly the same or not. Yes, 2 that looks exactly the same or one that's on the right wheel and one that's on the left wheel. That seems to be the choice of parts there in its entirety. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean that makes sense to me. Yeah, you just swap the wheels around, 6 on the left and 7 on the right, 6 on the right, 7 on the left there, and then you just build out as you want to go. Oh, we got choice of parts there, so 2 different knives by the looks of things. I bet there's only one of 15 and one of 16, but could be proven wrong in that regard. Let's have a look. No, actually, these are identical sprues. Okay, cool. There we go. So you could build 2 identical or 2 that have slight differences between them. So we've got a choice of heads here as well. I just missed that. Okay, interesting. I like it. I'm just going to pop this to one side, of course. And, well, actually, just before we do that, check what the size of the base is. The base is a 50mm round base. There you go. There's the evidence right before your eyes. So, popping that to one side properly now. Here we have it. So, as mentioned, these are 2 completely identical kits. So we only need to look at one. Well, kits. These are identical sprues, I should say. So there they are. As you can see, completely and utterly the same. So let's review it then, shall we? So starting at the bottom right, we have a connection point on a hard piece of metal. Hard piece of metal here, not on the cutting edge of this blade, this blade, this blade or this blade, so we're already 1-0 up. That's good to see. We have connection points all the way around the outside of the hard parts of the metallics and things like that, so that's okay. That's exactly what we like. We do have a connection point up here on this bit of cloth, which is better than fur. It's not much better than fur, but it is better than fur, so that's not too bad. Then we have a connection point, boo, on a small Skaven tail right there. We don't like that. As mentioned, that is a reason to be marking this one down, especially because we don't, like I said before in all the other ones so far, is that it can lead to a smoothing off of that segment of the tail. Now it is downward facing, but this is a Doom Flare rider. They're going to be sat right on top of the Doom wheel. Doom Flare is a Doom Flare. Sorry, completely just lost confidence in myself there for a moment. We have these kind of spokes that kind of, I'm assuming, go in here and here. We are not connected on the cutting edge of the blades here either. This is on the dull edge here and here and here and here as well. They are bent in such a way that is on purpose, so don't be kind of too thrown off by that. It's absolutely correct. It's what it should look like. We have the 2 heads here and here. We are connected at both the necks, so that's great. Both the knife arms, as mentioned, it's connected on the back of the blade, which is okay, but then it is right up there on the shoulder and on the underside of the pommel of the dagger. So watch out for up here, because again, there might be some fur in around there. You want to be careful with your knife or mold line remover. Just to finish off what we were saying about the bodies, with this body in particular, it's the same body, I don't know why I say this body in particular. Connection point here on a joint by some toes, by the looks of things. That should slide into one of these parts, probably around here somewhere, which will make sense, or somewhere. There's going to be some toes somewhere, can't really see. Same for this one as well. So just watch out for these. You want to make sure you get that off so that it's got a nice clean glue point or connection point with the other component as and when it goes in. I'm not sure where. I can't really see any little Skaven feet, but they must be there somewhere. Surely. Well, I guess that's up to me to find out. Which, well, I guess we're going to do right now. Really quick, actually. It's a very, very simple sprue for what looks to be quite an interesting model. Got lots of gaps in between things, so there's going to be lots of detail within the model to get at, which is really cool. So yeah, let's figure out how long it takes to build a Doom Flayer, shall we? I think that should be fun. So our Doom Flayers are now built. I think they look pretty cool. Both angled in. You should probably deploy them like that in a way that makes sense. These are absolutely fantastic. I like them. So we're going to pop these to one side and we're going to move on to our next kit, which is going to be the Warp Grinder. Now I figured I would just open the cellophane off camera. Spare us the awkward silence. We'll just pull out the Warp Grinder. Oh, that's it. Got the base in there, I'm sure. And well, this one doesn't look like it's going to be push fit either because there's no holes on the base. And no, it is not push fit. So, oh my goodness me, there's quite a lot going on here. So we'll just pop the sprue to one side just for the moment. And well, as you can see here, it is recommending. So well, firstly, we have a 90mm oval base. We do have variant assembly, so you can have your kind of clan rat standing either side of the, I guess, the little engine. That's not a clan rat, that's an engineer. There we go. And you can see that there is a recommendation here to paint things before you assemble it. So this is recommending some sub-assembly. Of course, we won't be doing that. But as you can see, so what we have is actually we do. We have a optional assembly down here and here and here. So we have optional heads for the crew on both sets, 19, 20, 14 and 15. And then we have an optional kind of top piece, 7 and 8, over the top of the kind of warpstone bit there, which is why they're saying do it in sub-assembly, but we should be fine without doing that. Just go over to the next page. We have another optional assembly here in the form of the kind of the way you want the lightning stuff to be going on the back of that little kind of generator for the warp grinder. We don't have any optional extras here for the engineer, but we do have yet another recommendation for sub-assembly up there, and this is the option you have for putting it on with the kind of the generator towards the left hand side of the warp grinder, and this is the option right here to have it on the right hand side of the warp grinder. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that as an option. Just means you can have a couple of different ones if you want to run multiple of these, and you might want to because they're actually pretty good. So yeah, that's interesting. Pop that to one side, and well, we have our 90mm oval base. There it is. It's a big base, and we have our single sprue, except it's not a single sprue. It is a sprue cut down into two kind of little half sprues that we've been working with so far on all the characters. Well, some of the characters, some of them are on even smaller sprues than this, but I reckon what we're going to see throughout this is a kind of general theme. So we're going to actually look here for the kind of stuff that we would criticize a sprue for. So let's start with the instructions. Don't want to stand up. There we go. Just stay still. Okay, so we have a weapon down here which is not connected on a cutting edge of a blade. That's nice. We should have assembly options for the mechanics and stuff here and here, for example, where it's all connected around the outside of it, so it's not the end of the world. It's kind of the solid hard details of the actual weapon itself, so generally these are pretty easy to smooth down. We have a connection point right here in amongst the warp grindery bit, just in there. So just like before when we talked about the warp stone having a connection point on it, you want to be careful that you don't annihilate that piece of detail by kind of pressing too hard with a knife and just smoothing it off. You want it to still be kind of nice and ridged just around there, for example. We have the two coverings, the two housings here where we're connected around the outside. This one's a little bit more congested because we've got the larger spikes on either side, but it does give you the widest room to be able to paint in amongst that as opposed to this one, although there's less on display just there. Probably going to go with this one though. We have a bit of the cruise weaponry type thing going on here, where we have a connection point on top of the little mace just at the top there, so that's good. And with a connection point on the armor there, but then we have 1, 2, and 3 tails all present, and there's a connection point on each of them. Boo, not nice. Stop it, Games Workshop. So yeah, just as we've mentioned so far with the tails, just be careful you're not applying too much pressure and smoothing off the segments of the tail. You don't want to do that. So just move with the curvature of it and you should be all good. We have the two lightning assemblies up here, 29 and 30, where we are connected on the actual frame, not on the lightning itself. So that's good for both of those pieces. Then we have things like pipes and tubes and stuff like that, and the wheels here, for example, where it's all connected around the outside on large, smooth, open areas, for example, just there, 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 and there. So that's okay. Nice and simple to smooth it down. The Skaven crew, aside from the tails that we've already mentioned, we are generally connected at the underside of the foot here, here, and here, for example, under here too, under there. But I will point out on component 11, see the other half of one of the bodies, probably this one, where it's quite a congested area to get your clippers in, and it's quite a large sprue connector just there, so just watch out for that one. Again, just kind of move towards this direction when you're doing number 11 rather than this way, because you will end up kind of cutting into the armor slash the cloth down there, so you just watch out for that. You don't want to do that. We have a head just here where we have a connection point in the neck, and we have another head here, but it's hooded, so that one's okay. It should be nice and simple to smooth down. Same for number 20. 19 is connected at the neck, so that's all good. And then number 35 is connected at the neck, and 39 is connected at the underside of the head. So these, the heads are actually genuinely pretty good. The hooded ones are the ones where you might have a little bit of an issue, just because you've got that connection point on top of the hood where it's nice and visible. However, you should be all right just because it's a smoother detail to smooth down rather than kind of in amongst the hair or the flesh. There's less risk involved. All of the wheels have got connection points between the kind of spiked bits around the outside, so watch out for that because you don't want to kind of clip off the spikes by accident. But otherwise, like, the connection points are kind of where you would expect with this. This is probably one of the better kits that we've worked on so far, just because it's mostly mechanical details, and when you have mechanical details, if it's a smooth flat area like that one there, or like this one here, or there, or even here and there, here and there, on these kind of large poles as well, here and here. Same for, there's another one, I saw it over here, there and there. It's actually not bad. We kind of like that because it's just, it makes it easier, right? Because it's a smooth detail, so you know when to stop, whereas you're not kind of having to move into the curvature of a divot or around the outside of a drum. That's all good. We like this. This is a very, very good sprue. I like it. The only thing to probably point out here is this little drum bit just there over on component number 3, because there is a kind of rounded section just at the top here which we want to avoid. And I will also point out the same thing on number 5, just here and here. So again, moving with the curvature rather than against it to flatten it off. You don't want to do that. I like it. It's nice. It's a good sprue. So let's see how long it takes to build a warp grinder, shall we? Our warp grinder is all done, looking great. So in the spirit of weapons teams, I guess, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Warpspark Weapon Battery next. So I'm going to flip this one over because, as you can see on the back here, immediately there are actually 3 different types of Warpspark. Yes, Warpspark Weapon Batteries. I know I just read it. So we have the Warp Bolt Scourges, the Rattling Gun, and the Warp Fire Thrower all together in here. So we can build 3 of each. The unit consists of 3 teams, so I wouldn't recommend building 1 of each, but let's have a look at it, shall we? So there we go, 2 sprues, 3 bases as per, well, as you would expect. This one is not push fit by the looks of things, so there must be more. There has to be more out there. I like push fit kits. I keep saying that, and I know full well some of you really don't like them, so I'm going to apologise. So let's have a look at these instructions then, shall we, very quickly. As you can see, we do have the 3 different options: the Warp Fire Thrower, the Rattling Gun, the Warp Bolt Scourges, or Scourges, however you want to pronounce that. This is a build all the way through on blue, so it's this track here, and then we build all the way through to get the second one, and then we build all the way through to get the third one by the looks of things. Hold on. Why does that look strange? Is it because... oh, no, this is literally just throwing me for a loop. I am confused by that. How does this work? So these are the blue track, and that would make sense to build the Warp Fire Throwers. But then presumably you should see a green track to build the next one down. I'm very confused. Ah, I get it. You build all the teams. Right, that is making a lot of sense now. Right, so, okay. So this is the 3 different tracks that you can build, and they are exactly the same teams. Bosh, bosh. This is what was throwing me off here, was this kneeling rat just here, 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 and here. So you build all 3 of the teams, and that's not a fully completed model there. I should have realized that. This is why it's important to look at these kits, because that confused me. It might confuse you too. So now you don't have to do the same thing. But then once you've built all 3 of the different weapons, we then flip it over. There we go. And this is where we can build the actual gun itself, and it's where you can choose which one is going to be the one that you put on the weapon, well, on the crew itself. So there are obviously optional assemblies here, but the optional assembly is the gun. The other one we have is potentially this one, so you can either build this little Neely guy, or the one kind of carrying the wheelbarrow with the shells by the looks of things. Now, actually, let's just check. Do we have shells? No, we just got the kneeling down one here, here, and here. So there we go. That makes sense. See, there's an option there or there. That, yeah, okay, I get it. I think I'm onto it now. All right, so what we shouldn't have is 2 separate sprues or any duplicates here, because we have 3 unique models, and as mentioned, these are not push fit. These are multi-part buildable optional extras type thing. So we'll start with this little half sprue, and then we'll do the other 2, well, the other 1, which is 2 of this size sprue stuck together. So again, when we have lots of components like this, the thing to look at is the kind of consistent things that we would have some criticisms of. And firstly, we see it right there. We have a tail with a connection point on the underside. I should just clarify throughout this video, most of them have been connection points on the underside of the tail, but it is still one thing to watch out for, because you don't want to smooth off those segments of the tail. This one does not have a connection point on the underside of it, so that's good to see. We do have then the bodies of the Skaven themselves. This one's really nice because we have the connection point on the underside of the foot, but this one right here is on a pipe, which makes it nice and simple. It's not a case of smoothing down a piece of cloth which has got kind of folds and all this kind of thing in it. It's just the pipe, so that's really good to see. We have a connection point here on this arm. This is on a muscle, but it's not in the hair, which is nice to see. We have, of course, things like these little contraptions where we have the connection points on the drum pits, so like there and there. Over here, this is a drum, but we also have it on the actual kind of connector point that I presume would go with this piece here, 47 and 48. So that's actually quite good. Same for this bit here, because it's not like connected right there on the circular bit, so that's good. Spherical is probably the correct word to use there. This body here is a connection point in some cloth there, but also on the other side of the foot, which is nice. We have a head down here, we have another head just there, we have a third head here and a fourth head here. So the reason I'm pointing out these heads is these two are just heads without any kind of shoulders or arms, and these are connected at the neck, which is great. However, these ones where we have a piece of the body actually attached to the head, there is a connection point right there on the top of the head, and that is not something we like to see because it's just such a prominent detail. You never want to kind of smooth it down or kind of gouge it with your knife or mold line remover, so just watch out here and here because you don't want to kind of chop off the forehead of your Skaven miniatures. We have another arm up here where we have a connection point on the elbow. It doesn't look like that's in the fur, which is good, but then the other connection point is there on a piece of metal, so that's all right. We have quite a spindly little pipe just here, component number 63. Oh, good lord, I've just realized how many components there are on here. If there's 63 components, we might find a higher number over there, but it's quite a spindly pipe, so I would just recommend clipping here on the pipe first and then clipping the underside just under there, so you don't put too much stress by clipping it there and then perhaps accidentally snapping the pipe just around, kind of, it would be around there that the stress would happen, so just bear that in mind. We have another piece of body over here, again connected at a pipe, connected on a pipe, but then, oh no, that's a joint as well, but then we have, well, that's the joint for a weapon, but then we have it on the underside of the foot, so that's one of the best bits of body that we've seen so far. Let's have a quick look at that other sprue, shall we? So here it is, and I would imagine that the feedback for this one will be exactly the same as the other one. So again, we have kind of pieces of machinery here, where we have connection points on just kind of various flat smooth details. We do have one on a circular spherical drum bit just there, so watch out for that. We have another head and another head and another head there actually, where all of it's connected at the neck, which is really good. We actually have another 1, 2 and 3 over here as well, where we have the connection points at the neck, which is great, really nice to see. We have a weapon here where it's one of those kind of triangle punch weapons. We don't have a connection point on a cutting bit there, which is nice to see. Not that there really is a cutting bit on these types of triangle blades, so that's okay. We don't seem to have any daggers or anything like that where there is connection points on blades, so this kit gets a pass. We do, however, have tails again, so we have one here, one here, one there, one here and one there, and this is the only one here that does not have a connection point in the segments. And actually the biggest sin here is that this one and also this one are all on the underside, but this one is actually on the top of the tail. I think that's a first we've seen. I can't remember, we've built quite a lot of models so far, but yeah, just watch out for those. Again, it is a markdown unfortunately, and I think that's going to be consistent throughout all of these Skaven now, but it is just one thing to point out. Again, you don't want to just smooth off those tails. They're not smooth tails, they're segmented tails, and that's important. We have a kind of pipe up here which is nicely connected, same for this arm. There's a connection point there on the muscle rather than in the hair, which is great. And then we have it there on the kind of the drum piece, just like that. Lots of different kind of gun pieces as well, connection points on pegs and on the end of barrels, which is okay. We have a connection point here on a pipe and on a smooth kind of piece of machinery there, and the body's again kind of connected in various kind of sensible places, like on the underside of the foot and then in armor rather than generally tending to be in the cloth. There's obviously going to be a couple here, we can't account for all of them, like that one right there, there's a connection point in some cloth, so just watch out for that. And same up there actually, that's 2, but this one appears to be in some armor piece, and that one is also in cloth. In fact, it might be the majority of the cloth, and at least it is towards the top where it is going to be smoothest, again not right down here in the robe where there's all the folds and stuff. I like it. I don't think it's actually that bad, this one. I think it's reasonably well put together. We shall see, of course. I mean, the Warlock engineers were very, very nice. So we'll have to see what these are like. Not push fit, though. Boo. So I went with the Warp Vault Scourges for these guys, because I think it might be the most powerful version. The Rattling's very good, or the Gatling I should say, and the Warp Fire Thrower is also very good. But I just thought the Scourges were possibly the better one of all three. But time will tell, of course. More tactical-minded people will obviously correct me in the comments. So we're going to move on to our next kit now, which is going to be the Acolyte Globadiers. So let's get them out. Here we are. There we go. We've got a little bag for bases. So I'll just pop that box down here. There we go. So again, not push fit because we don't have pegs on the bases. I'm getting sad now. Wish it was, you know, maybe there won't be any more push fit models. Anyway, so this is a foldable bit of instruction manual here. So that generally tends to mean that we don't have actually too difficult a task on our hands. So when we look at the kind of the first page just there, as you can see, we've actually got a couple of different interchangeable parts. All 5 of the backpacks or canisters are interchangeable, as are these bits here. But I think these probably are a case of 42 and 43. That makes the head assembly, and therefore not 43 and 25, for example. But then each of these are interchangeable throughout the rest of the kit, which is pretty cool. I like that as a solution. It makes them nice and unique, especially if you want to add a bunch of different Acolyte Globadiers to your army. We have a champion or just a normal Acolyte Globadier, so obviously we can take them in units of 10, for example, and because we've got that champion variant, it means that means something. Then we have just our normal kind of construction of the other 4. So you follow the blue track to get your champion done up to there, and then that's the green track to do just a normal Acolyte Globadier. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other different constructions by the looks of things. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. We have those interchangeable parts, but they're not really interchangeable parts. We might even be in a situation where we'll only have 1 or 2 bits left over, which is actually really cool. So let's have a look at that sprue then, shall we? There is only the 1 sprue and a bag of, was it 28 or 25 mil bases? Can't remember. 28mm bases. So just the 1 sprue and a bag of 528 mil bases. That's pretty cool. So it's a pretty chunky sprue. There's a lot of detail on here. So we'll just do what we've done so far, and we'll start at the bottom right, of course. So here we have a sword, and the reason I wanted to start here is 1, why break the habit of a lifetime, but also 2, we don't have a connection point on the cutting edge of this blade. Same for over here, same for over here, and I don't see any more blades actually over here. We don't have a connection point on the cutting edge of that blade or here as well. So that is fantastic. We have a connection point on the underside of a tail here, but not here, not here, not over here. Ooh. I think it's pretty good. I'm trying to see if there are any more tails. We might actually come up against them in just a minute, but we'll wait and cross that bridge when we come to it. We do have some slightly spindly details in terms of this kind of gas mask assembly here. That is thankfully not connected to either of the kind of thinner pipes, so there is just a connection point here, but it's always worth just bearing in mind that if you apply too much pressure, you can always kind of move it into the side of the actual frame of the sprue and therefore possibly snap it. So just be careful around here, and that would be the same for any of these smaller pipes. So for example, just up here on component number 35, you want to clip the pipe first and then do the head. Don't do it the other way around, because you can put that pressure on these very thin little pipes, because you don't want to do that because you don't want to break them. We do, as we mentioned, I mean, we've talked about it so many times, we do have the tail, you know by now. So I'm not going to repeat myself. And the same goes for things like the drum sections on the Globadiers backpacks. Just move with the curvature of the piece, because again, you don't want to gouge it out. But the heads are the interesting part here, because they've got so much kind of technical detail going on here. So we have a connection point here in this actual bit of cloth on component 26, and then we have one here on the kind of gas mask cylinder just there. So this is quite a congested detail, so watch out for that. I'm not the biggest fan of that, as we've mentioned before, having connection points, 2 heads on the tops of the heads, because it's, you know, it just kind of, it's a very obvious place for there to kind of be a little bit of gouging or a kind of slightly rougher area. The same would go for kind of over here, where we have connection points on a very congested tiny little drum just down there, and also back here on the joint. That's fine, but that one is one to watch out for. We've talked about this one. This one's similar. We have a connection point right there on the nose, and then also on the pipe. Same over here. This is on a joint, but then again right on the front of the face. So the faces of our Globadiers aren't great. Well, they're great pieces of plastic, but they're not kind of the easiest pieces to work with. Our neck pieces, where we're going to be gluing those heads into in the interchangeable way, they're looking pretty good. We have the connection points around the outside of the armor, and then we have it round kind of on the flat part rather than on a drum, but that is possibly not going to be consistent with all of them. Yep, exactly right there. We have a rounded section there. It's quite a shallow rounded section, so watch out for that one. Let's see if we can see any more. Yeah, over here, same deal. They're not the kind of like this drum here. It's really, really large, so it's kind of easier to follow the curvature, whereas for example on these slightly smaller bits like this one and this one, it's a very shallow circle. So if it's the shallower, the more kind of subtle you have to be with the knife, so just watch out for that. We have a tiny little hand right here. That's one to watch out for. Same over here, holding the little Globadier or glob. And then for example on the bodies and stuff, it's the same kind of feedback as always. Watch out for the areas in the cloth and on any muscles, like for example this arm up here. It's better because it's not in amongst the hair, but you know, we have also got one right there on the edge of a hand, which I'm never a fan of, because it ends up kind of being quite a congested area, and it's very, very easy to smooth it down completely flat, and then you lose definition in the fingers. And it's like a small detail, but it is one that bothers me, so it's always worth just kind of applying a little bit of kind of, I don't know, restraint with your knife or mold line remover, especially when it comes to connection points on hands or fingers. So that one there, for example. This one, even though it is on that little piece of jewelry, it is still worth being careful. There's one as well. That looks to be half a hand, which would mean that that logic would follow that that's the other half of that hand. So we want to be careful with this connection point, for example, because otherwise there will be a gap between the fingers, and you don't want that. Overall, this is kind of a mixed sprue. There's some really nice layouts here. There's some really excellent details, and there's loads of components packed into what's quite a small sprue, but there is a lot to be careful of around here. Lots of dainty little pieces and rounded corners and stuff like that. So just bear that in mind as you're building your Globadiers, but we always have to see how long it takes to build them, and that is the true marker of quality. So our Globadiers are now all built, all 5 of them. So it is now time to move on to the next of our infantry. Well, the last of our infantry. We've just got 2 more kits left to examine. And the next one of these is going to be the Stormvermin. Here they are. So, just get this one open. Now imagine if Vizzik Skour is the one that's push fit as well. So, here we are. Stormvermin. It feels like a hefty instruction manual. We get 10 of these in the box. 2 sprues. Let's just check to see if they are identical sprues. It doesn't look like it. No, they are not. You can tell because one of these has a banner and the other does not. So that's very cool. Yeah, 10 unique models maybe? Let's have a look at the instructions to see if that hypothesis turns out to be true. So, here we have some variants, first and foremost. Champion and just a regular Stormvermin there, with a glaive or a pick of some description, pointing or pistol. There's your different options for your champion. For your regular Stormvermin, it's just the sort of speary thing. Then we have the banner. Oh, my instructions appear to have fallen apart in transit. In fact, that's not even been stapled in by the looks of things. Missed a staple down here. There's a hole up there, but that's interesting. Okay, so watch out for that in case the same thing happens to you. We have a banner, as we've already pointed out. Another regular Stormvermin there. We should have a musician, yep, and then a regular Stormvermin there. And we have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the finest of the Stormvermin. So they all have the spears. There's not really any other kind of variation in here in terms of optional details by the looks of things. I'm not seeing like interchangeable heads or anything like that, or indeed kind of optional weapons and things. It's just that it comes as it is. You obviously have the option to build regular Stormvermin versus a banner, for example, but you're probably going to build the banner and the musician after all. Extra abilities are always nice to have. So that's interesting. It's not particularly customizable kit, but it's a pretty cool one regardless. I'm sure the more talented modelers out there will know what they're doing with this more. The bag of bases is a bag of 28mm bases. Here it is. And then we have those 2 sprues. So we'll start with this one. And, well, we're going to move pretty quickly through this because, well, there's a lot of them on each of them. And we've already done a bunch of kits so far. So the exact same amount of kind of feedback and kind of points to draw your attention to will be exactly the same. And there's a couple of things we're definitely looking out for here is cutting edge blades. And, well, it looks like this spear, this spear, this spear, this one. This pick just about escapes that horrible fate. This little blade here as well also escapes it as well, which is really cool, really nice. Love to see it. We're looking for tails as well. This one does not have a connection point on the tail. This one does, as does this one. This one doesn't. I think that's it for this sprue. Otherwise, you know, as per usual, it's kind of the same old story. It's watch out for any cloth areas. Make sure you're not kind of struggling too much when it comes to like the hairy bits, if there is indeed connection points in amongst the hair on arms and legs and things like that. But these are pretty well armored. They're pretty hefty little Skaven rats, so there shouldn't be too much of an issue. A lot of it should really be on cloth or on armor, as that's kind of proved out by kind of this piece over here. This body, whilst we have a connection point on the underside of the foot, we do have one right there on the cloth of the kind of shirt. Same over here on the cloth of the leg. Then we have one here on a pouch on the back there. We do have one here up on the top of the skull, which is quite congested little area with a spike just adjacent to it. So watch out for that. We have another cutting edge here, which doesn't have a connection point, which is fantastic. It's almost as if they're listening. Our pointing hand here does have a connection point right there on the wrist. Now, I'm going to be building it with the pistol. I'm sure of that. But that is something to watch out for, because the pistol hand does not have it. It has it on the pistol, on the butt of the pistol, on the joint there where it goes into the body, and along the edge, like the end of the barrel, which is nice. Is looking pretty good. It's a nice sprue, this one, actually. I'm very impressed by this. We have a spare arm where we have a connection point here in the form of the joint where it's going to be glued into the hand, so that's one to watch out for. So you get a nice kind of flush glued component, because you know, if you don't get that nice and smooth, it will not sit flush, and so it'll look a little bit awkward. We have a head here, and we have more heads. Do we have any more heads? Yes, we have one here and one here. We have connection points on the neck, but then we do tend to have them on the top of the heads, where by the kind of the bladed bit. And actually we have a cutting edge one just there. We have a connection point on the cutting edge of a helmet blade. Now I don't know if we're going to mark it down for that, because it's not as important as a normal speary thing, but I don't know, we might have to take off 0.2 of a point here just for that alone, because that's a cutting edge of a sharp detail. There's a connection point on it. Don't like that. But when it's on the dull edge on the back, on the top of the helmet, that's actually okay. So this head, for example, absolutely fine, as is this one, as is this one, as is this one. And again, when the cutting edge is on the clipping edge, connection point, not cutting edge, when the connection point is on the underside of the neck, we actually really like that. That's a really good thing. Okay, that's sprue number 1. Sprue number 2, I would imagine, will be very similar. We're going to check for any kind of difficult clip points. Here we go. So we'll start down here. We have another spear which escapes. We have 1, 2, 3 spear, 4 spear, 5 spear, 6 spear here, which we don't have any connection points on cutting edges of those. Are they spears or are they halberds? I don't know. Somebody in the chat tell me. Or a glaive? I'm not entirely certain. I'm sure you guys know better than me. But yeah, they all seem to escape the fate of having a connection point on the cutting edge of a blade, which is fantastic. So we've nearly made it through the entire Skaven range, which is great. The bodies, again, are very similar. Connection point on the underside of the foot, and then we have it in the cloth and on the armor and stuff like that. We're looking for tails. This one doesn't have a connection point on the tail, but this one does, and this one does as well. This one does not, this one does. So again, just every time we've talked about it with the tail, it's the same thing. Just make sure you're nice and careful and you're not smoothing out the segments too much with your knife or mold line remover. We have more heads. There's a head, here's a head, everywhere's a head. And there's another one there. Again, connection points on the kind of neck and then on the back of the bladed headpiece. There's only one so far. We've had it on the actual cutting edge of the bladed headpiece, which is pretty good going, to be honest. It's almost worthy of praise, except that one is a blemish upon its record. Bodies, we've talked about. Glaives, we've kind of talked about. We do kind of tend to have a little connection point on the hands and stuff like that around here, or just kind of in a slightly congested detail. So a hand would be a congested detail where there's kind of joints and stuff going on there, where it's going to clip into quite a spindly arm. Well, not clip, it's going to glue into a quite spindly arm. So you want to watch out for that. Again, just not taking too much off so that it ends up being wobbly, but also not missing it so that you get that nice flush fit, as we've already talked about. All in all, there's actually not much new here. There's only really just those little bits that we wanted to talk about, as we've talked about throughout. So I'm pretty optimistic about the Stormvermin. They look to be fairly simple to put together. If we just quickly check out how many components a champion is in, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus that little bit on the base is 7. So if it's like roughly 7 or kind of 8 components per Stormvermin, this should actually be really fun. And, well, they're very cool, Stormvermin. You're probably going to want to have quite a few of these in your collection. Their rules are quite nice. They have that bodyguard thing, which, as I know from the crypt guard from the Flesh Eater Courts, is very, very good. So let's check out how long it takes to build the Stormvermin, and then we'll be right back with the main event. So with the Stormvermin all built, it is now time for the main event. Yes, Vizzik Skour, Prophet of the Horned Rat. There he is. it sideways on because, well, I don't have room. So let's get it open, shall we? I'm excited for this one. Now some of you might be thinking, why didn't you start with this one? Well, you always want to leave the best till last. Not always. So, just looking inside it. Initially we have 1 and 2 sprues. And we have a very large and in charge base. So we're going to have to find out what the size of that base is. So we're just going to pop these sprues over here just for the moment. And here we have our instructions. So what size base are we working with here? That's my first question, because I don't think we're going to be looking at any kind of options or optional assembly type things. Oh no, we have a lot of rats. There we go. Lots of little rats that we can put on the base by the looks of things. So, you know, choice is yours, dealer's choice. And yeah, that's it in terms of this kind of thing. I'm not sure about how many of them are actually on him by the looks of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm not sure if those are like kind of predefined components or if they are ones that are just that you kind of optionally select aside from the ones on the base. But it is a 130 millimeter round base. That's massive. Also, I don't know if I've ever seen a 130 millimeter round base before. 120, sure. 90, definitely. 150, but 130 millimeter? That's new. Okay, well, interesting instructions nonetheless. But we do only have that one optional assembly over here, which is the question of how many rats you want to put on the base. So let's look at the real meat and potatoes here, shall we? Let's look at the sprues. So, just get this instruction manual out of the way just for a second. So there's our 130 mil round base. It's very, very large. It's such a strange number to me. Anyway, we have our 2 sprues, so we're going to start here with this small one. Just here. So, flip it over. There we go. That's a bit nicer, isn't it? So, oh, right. The first thing I'm noticing is there's actually quite a few chunky mold lines on this. You see that there? Along there? That is quite the significant mold line, and it looks to be the case around all of these components. That is a bummer, because mold lines haven't been a massive issue on the rest of them, but those are quite significant on this kit. That's a shame. Okay, well, anyway, let's do our due diligence. So this looks to be the sprue that contains most of the horns of Vizzik Skour, as well as his clothes here and here. So first things first, what we're noticing here is with the horns, they are quite large, but they are mostly intact by the looks of things. So you don't have like a horn in half, for example, there. So you shouldn't have any gaps, as it were, but we do have those large mold lines, and we have connection points to really watch out for. So we have, like, for example, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, this one, and this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. That's a lot of this ones. I do apologize. This one as well is actually quite tricky, because it's right on that kind of curved edge of the bell, because it kind of comes in and out. You want to be watching out for that. Well, the reason we're pointing out all of those connection points on the horns is these are significantly textured details. So when you're kind of smoothing them down with your knife or your mold line remover and you're clipping them out, you don't want to apply tons and tons of pressure, because you want to retain the ridges within the components, because otherwise it will be kind of quite obvious that it's been flattened off. So like I said, just don't apply too much pressure as you're going for it, because otherwise you will kind of get that flattening off of those pieces. Next up, we have the 3 bits of cloth that I can see. So this one, for example, we have a connection point there, which is actually on the inside of the cloth rather than on the edge. This one is on the outside facing part of the detail as well. This one, as far as I can tell, is the only one that's actually on an edge, because the rest of them are encroaching on outward or inward facing details. So an outward facing detail will show up on the model if you don't get it just right by kind of being careful and not gouging the model with your knife or mold line remover. And an inside facing component or connection point might have a trouble with kind of that flush fit that we've talked about. So you want to watch out over here. It's not the same story on this piece. However, we have our connection points around the outside, which are absolutely fine. There, and there, and there. And likewise this one on the outside of this piece of armor. However, this one here is encroaching on outward facing detail. And this is an in-half piece of armor, kind of shoulder plate. And the reason why we're pointing that out is because the other half is presumably on the other sprue. And if that is the case, which it should be the case because it's not here, then you might want to watch out for a long seam along the edge of these pieces of armor. Now, because they are like the apex of the shoulders, it might be quite obvious depending on how flush the fit is. So just watch out for that. Lastly, we also have a couple of the spare rats here and here. They are quite nicely connected to the sprue in that we only have one connection point just on the top. However, given the prevalence of the mold lines on the rest of the kit, you want to watch out for any kind of thick mold lines going down tails, for example. And if you find any, just be careful. Like I said, not too much pressure because those are very spindly, those tails. It's segmented and they're small, so it's very easy to snap them. Okay, let's move on to the other sprue. So here it is, and well, it's quite large. I mean, actually, to be honest, when we're looking at the amount of components here, there aren't tons of them. I haven't seen the highest number. Maybe it's over here. No, it doesn't look 40. Maybe a couple more than 40 components in total. But 42. There's one there. I'm sure we'll find the highest number eventually. Maybe 42 is it. However, one, we have the tail, and the thing I like about this tail, even though we've got a connection point here and we've got one in here and in here as well, and they're all on the segments of the tail, naturally given its size, it's actually all in one piece. Again, we're not going to have a line going down the middle of the gap in the segment, for example. So that's actually just really quite nice. That is the one thing to praise that tail about. Again, we've got quite significant mold lines over the top of these. You can see one. Maybe you can't. You can see one. If I just adjust the focus there, you can see it along this piece. It is significant because normally if it's there but not so bad, you wouldn't really be able to pick that up on camera, but you can. So we have more cloth here, and of course there as well, where the connection points generally tend to be around the outside, which is better than the other sprue. However, this one, it does, right by that mold line that we just talked about, it does encroach on the outward facing area of the cloth, so watch out for that. I'm staggered by how big this guy is. Actually, I hadn't just realized how big it is. We have the other half of that shoulder piece just here, and again, connection points towards the apex there and there. So you want to be really careful on particularly these two clip points, and especially when you're thinning it down, smoothing it down with the knife or mold line remover. The reason for that is you don't want that kind of indented kind of gap appearing, especially when it's a piece of armor that's in half and the connection points where you've clipped and cleaned down are at the apex of it. That can tend to happen, so just be careful. It might be that you want to press this component and this component together in order to make sure you get a nice smooth thin down over. I keep saying thin down, smooth down, smoothing it down. God, we're going to get there in the end. It's been a long day. We'll get there in the end. You want to get it a nice consistent smoothing down with your knife or mold line remover, and it's one way to tackle that is by taking those two halves and just having it pressed together whilst you do it. We have a foot here. I don't know why I'm pointing it out, because I just spotted it. And we have a large knife here where we don't have a connection point on the cutting edge of the blade, which is fantastic. Love to see it. We have a fantastic, I've said that twice in a row now, we have an awesome, lovely staff here. Again, all in one component. I'm impressed with how much of this is like we're committing a lot of detail to one component at once. That's very, very cool, because this and this pretty much go to, that's, well, it looks like that's one of the only two things that go together, and that's it, which is really impressive. And we have our kind of scenery pieces over here, our tactical carpentry, and they're kind of is as it is. You don't have to worry too much about smoothing these down perfectly because, well, it's the scenic base, right? You obviously want to take off the flash, but they should be fine. But they are all connected around the outside, which is great. They're not really encroaching on the details as well, so that's awesome to see. We do have pieces of skin, obviously. We have a connection point here alongside a very thick mold line, which we want to be careful of. Again, you don't want to take too much off it, especially when it's along a seam like that on the chest by the looks of things, because again, you don't want to have a gap where this and the other piece of the kind of musculature is going to meet. We have a arm. This is a great example. When you have an arm like this and you have a second piece of the arm that slots in there, you might have a gap going across there like that. So again, you just want to be careful when you have a connection point like this right up against that piece. This one's fine. Well, we hope it's fine, but this one is fine generally, but you just want to be careful, especially when, for example, this piece and I'm sure this piece are going to connect together somehow, because that's his back and that is his chest. So just watch out for that. I mean, overall, I'm a little bit disappointed in the size of those mold lines. That is going to add time to the construction of our Vizzik Skour. It's probably going to be the thing that takes the most time, because there aren't that many components, as I've already mentioned. 42, I think, was the amount, or the highest number I saw at least. Looks to be that way. Yep, 42 components, because this only really goes up to 35. So that would make sense. 36, I should say. Which actually doesn't mean it's going to take that long if the mold lines were in better repair, but they are quite thick, so every piece is going to require a bit of maintenance in that regard, so do just watch out for that. I hope yours is not the same, but mine is the way that is. So we're going to come back in just a minute to find out how much Vizzik Skour of a time sink he is. That sentence doesn't make sense, but we'll find out together. So there we have it. The Skaven, all done. It took a while. It's 11 kits. It's a huge amount of things to do. Now, of course, the big question is, did I paint all of it? Absolutely not. But I've done a lot of it. So of the 11, we've done 6. We've done Vizzik, Krittok, the Master Moulder, the Arch-Warlock, the Warlock Galvaneer, and the Brood Terror. And of course I haven't quite finished Vizzik's base, but I wanted to get the kind of spinniness ready for today's video. So we've done all the way up to that kind of very nearly there, just a couple of tufts and bits here to go. But honestly, they are an absolutely breathtaking range. I think they look absolutely wonderful. I'm really excited to show you these videos, guys, because I think I've outdone myself here. Really pleased with how these ones have come out. And well, there's at least 5 more yet to come, which I'm really excited to delve into. So, yeah, there you go. It's been a busy old week. Yeah. Yep, 6 of 11. There's only 5 left to go. The Stormvermin, the Acolyte Globadiers, the Doom Flayers. Look at my notes again. The Warp Grinder and the Warpspark Weapon Battery. Yeah, they're all coming. Don't worry. We're doing the entire raft of Skaven stuff. But what we have done is all of the characters and all the really cool stuff. Like this one. The Brood Terror. He's only just been finished as well. It's been a busy week, and I'm actually having a huge amount of fun painting them. I didn't think I would, but I really am. They were never really a faction that I was super interested in before. I loved them because they're very Warhammer, but the models weren't something that I was just kind of really into. But now that we've had this full range refresh, it's a stunning glow up for the Skaven, and I'm really impressed with it, and they are a lot of fun to do. They're actually reasonably quick. You can go really high and spend lots and lots of time on loads of parts of it, but because they're so detailed and so kind of textured, it makes them really simple to paint, and you can just do them really quickly if you want to. For example, this guy. So, like, yeah, it's just a fantastic range overall. I'm really, really impressed with it. Now, bearing in mind we haven't painted all of it yet, we have built all of it though. So, what is our review? Well, before we jump into that, of course, it is worth just saying a couple of things around. One of the criticisms I've had of 40k until now has been a lot of it has been rebooted models from an age gone by. And that has started to wear on me when it comes to 40k, and well, for Age of Sigmar, especially with something like the Skaven, we have had a bunch of redesigned models here. Things like the Master Moulder, the Stormvermin, and so on and so forth. A lot of them are reboots. Now, that's okay, just about for now, as long as the rest of this edition isn't like this. And of course, this is a refresh and glow up of a very old, very popular faction. So, much like with the Astra Militarum, it feels better that it's done with this, rather than just kind of picking one or two characters and making them taller. It's okay for now. Like I said, if this is how we go for the rest of the edition, I will start to get a bit annoyed. But what we do have scattered in here are, of course, a couple of new bits and pieces, like the Brood Terror, like Vizzik Skour, and Krittok Foulblade, I'm pretty certain is a brand new miniature. So there's bits and pieces here and there which are brand new, which is awesome. And, well, building all of these kits, pretty much on the whole, exactly as you would expect. It's more of a continuation of what Skaven Tide gave us with the push-fit Skaven. Alas, there was only the one push-fit miniature in the form of the Brood Terror, not the Master Moulder. But overall, it's pretty much you know what you're getting. If you've done the clan rats and stuff like that, okay, we're losing the push-fit aspect for things like the Stormvermin, but they don't really gain much time from that because they're not in huge amounts of components. There is a couple of bits and pieces where it's a little bit tricky, like for example on Krittok Foulblade, putting him together was quite difficult. And well, there are moments within the instructions on certain miniatures, like Vizzik, where it says to do it in sub-assemblies, which I can kind of see and I would kind of agree could be done that way. Same for things like the Doom Flayers and stuff like that. However, overall, these miniatures go together pretty smartly and pretty quickly, and the sprues are in pretty decent nick. There wasn't much in the way of huge amounts of mold lines, except for Vizzik Skour, who had quite a few chunky ones on him, which again, just on the bigger miniatures, is a little bit disappointing because it means that they end up taking much longer than they perhaps should. Whereas the little ones, when they don't have that many mold lines on them, they go much quicker, which is brilliant. So I can kind of see how maybe it's not the end of the world on a big miniature because you can see the mold lines nice and clearly, and well, getting them off is a little bit easier when it's a big open piece of plastic as opposed to a tiny little knife or something like that on a kind of like a Warlock Galvaneer or something like that. But ultimately, like, I think the sprues were generally very, very good. Obviously, we have our criticisms of them, as we usually do. Things like, you know, the connection points are in and amongst the hair and the slightly more congested areas and stuff like that. It is just going to be one of those things. And it's tricky to kind of pick them out one by one because there's a lot to like on all of the sprues, and it's really kind of more general feedback and themes that happen across this kind of range, as it were, which actually is a boon to it. It's a good thing that really you kind of know what you're expecting. So there's a lot to like about this range of Skaven, especially the way they're put together, the way they are on the sprue, the small amount of mold lines really in general for brand new miniatures. I'm just very, very, very impressed by the Skaven. And ultimately, when a lot of these miniatures are being glowed up, are the glow ups good? I mean, yeah, they really are. I really like the Master Moulder and the Arch-Warlock. The Stormvermin, I think, look absolutely fantastic. I haven't painted them up yet, but I think they look wonderful. They're just really well put together. And the Doom Flayers, they're great as well. There's a really intelligent way that the Doom Flayers are done in that box. It's just the identical sprue, but you swap a couple of things over and it gives you two slightly different Doom Flayers, which is actually really clever. And I really like that kit. So ultimately, the Skaven refresh, what would we give it on the Land Raider scale? Well, I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10. I really am, because I'm just very impressed. I'm hoping the Stormcast stick the landing as well as the rest of the Skaven have, but we shall have to see in due time whenever it is they come out. But I think an 8 out of 10 on the Land Raider scale is fair for these guys. And, you know, they just look fantastic. I mean, aesthetic alone, I'm going to give them like a 9-10. Like 9.5 out of 10. But I think generally, as a kind of set, 8 out of 10 feels about right. I mean, there's things I can say about the painting of them, but this is the sprue review. But there are times when you're painting it and you feel like, was this just designed for contrast painters? Because this really lovely kind of intelligently placed recesses and stuff like that, which just really make the models pop. I'm just very pleased. And I think these painting videos are going to be very successful, because I think you're going to like them a lot. I hope they are, at least. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon for another sprue review, no doubt. But of course, we will be back with many painting videos. 11 of them, to be precise. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/Warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.